Here at the State Archives, we also have some records that contain fascinating information called original bill files. And some of these original bill files include copies of Assembly and Senate bills and resolutions introduced into the state legislature. Now, although the text of all state laws dating back to 1850 can be read on the website of the Office of the Chief Clerk of the California State Assembly, our original records include both successful and unsuccessful bills. In many instances, the texts of old bills that were not successfully chaptered into law can only be found in our original bill files. Here we can see an image of the original bill file for California's Fugitive Slave Act of 1852. The law, known as an act respecting fugitives from labor and slaves brought to the state prior to her admission into the Union, stated that when an enslaved person, quote, shall escape into this state, the person to whom such labor or service may be due, his agent or attorney, is hereby empowered to seize or arrest such fugitive from labor, using such force and restraint as may be necessary. In no trial or hearing under this act shall the testimony of such alleged fugitive be admitted in evidence, unquote. Here we can see an image of another original bill file at the State Archives. This one dates from 1897. And at that time, a member of the State Assembly named Henry Dibble would write what one legal historian calls, quote, California's first civil rights law. Here we can see the original bill file for his Assembly Bill number 4. Now, Dibble was a white Civil War veteran originally from New York State. When he was 19 years old, Dibble was serving as a corporal in a cavalry regiment. Dibble was wounded and lost a leg in the summer of 1863 during the Battle of Port Hudson, Louisiana. Some of the nation's first black regiments fought at Port Hudson, which was the last Confederate stronghold along the Mississippi River. The victory at Port Hudson effectively cut the Confederacy in two, and the bravery of black Union soldiers was later acknowledged by President Abraham Lincoln, who said, quote, there have been men base enough to propose to me to return to slavery the black warriors of Port Hudson, and thus win the respect of the masters they fought. Should I do so, I should deserve to be damned in time and eternity, unquote. After the war, Dibble moved to California and was elected to the State Assembly. Dibble's Assembly Bill 4 became law as Statutes of 1897, Chapter 108. This law established that, quote, whoever shall make any discrimination on account of color or race in respect to the admission of any citizen to or his treatment in any inn, restaurant, hotel, or other public place shall be liable in damages in an amount not less than $50, unquote. A resolution endorsing the proposed law was adopted by the State Executive Committee of the Afro-American Leagues of California. Newspaper accounts, however, reveal that the bill was not without its detractors. About 6 weeks after the bill was introduced, the Los Angeles Herald newspaper reported on an exchange between A.S. Longley, a clerk working for the State Senate Committee on the Judiciary, and his barber in Sacramento. Quote, he went in a barber shop on K Street this morning to be shaved and got into a controversy with the barber over a civil rights bill now pending in the legislature. The barber did not take kindly to the law and declared that no law or legislature could make him shave an expletive or any other man unless he chose to do so. Longley undertook to combat that proposition and engaged in a lively argument with the barber, who was busy lathering his face. Quote, well, I will show you, said the barber, that I am right by putting you out, unquote. So he wiped the lather off Longley's face and fired him out the door. Longley only now shaves with colored barbers who have no race prejudice against shaving white men, unquote. Here at the State Archives, we also have what are called common school reports. And these are collections, records that contain statistical information submitted to the Superintendent of Public Instruction from about 1862 to 1960. These are chronologically filed by school year and then alphabetically by county name. These records include information about different school districts, student attendance figures, grades taught, length of school year, finances, the names of teachers, and so on. Unfortunately, these reports do not contain information about individual students by name. We also here at the State Archives have records of professional and vocational standards These are licensing files from the California Department of Consumer Affairs. And there were many different types of professions, and still are, that the state required those people to have licenses. So people like veterinarians, pharmacists, engineers, cosmetologists, dentists, etc. And some of these records date back all the way to the 1880s. Here we can see an image of a manicurist's examination application from the year 1928. And here we can see an image of an application for a boxer's license from the State Athletic Commission in 1934. The records of the State Athletic Commission here at the State Archives, they're really fascinating. They also contain an investigation of allegations of discrimination against black boxers at the Hollywood Legion Stadium in Los Angeles in 1939. One notable boxer, Henry Armstrong, protested by refusing to box there. According to our records, Armstrong stated, quote, "If Afro-American fighters were good enough to fight in the trenches of France, they certainly should be good enough to fight in the Hollywood Post Stadium," unquote. Here we can see an image of Henry Armstrong's boxing license application from 1936 that we have here at the State Archives. The investigation records even include this telegram we can see from the Los Angeles Council of the Negro Congress dated 1940. And that's in our State Athletic Commission records, the investigation files. We do also have what are called our Spanish archives here at the State Archives. These records include information about grants of land that were made to individuals when California was still a part of the Republic of Mexico. The records include official copies of the grant documents called expedientes. These are available in both the original Spanish and in English language translations. And for some of the grants, there are accompanying maps or diseños. And we do have some WPA indexes arranged alphabetically by both the name of the person who received the grant of land and also arranged alphabetically by the name of the grant or the name of the rancho, basically the property. And it's interesting because these Spanish archives include instances of women who received grants of land in their own name, cattle ranches. And at that point in our history, women in California had greater legal property rights than did women back east in the United States. In fact, when we drafted our first state constitution in Monterey in 1849, these rights were preserved. According to Delegate Henry Halleck, quote, "I would call upon all the bachelors in this convention to vote for it. I do not think we can offer a greater inducement for women of fortune to come to California. It is the very best provision to get us wives that we can introduce into the Constitution." He was a bachelor at the time. So these are just some of the records that we have here at the State Archives that are helpful to family historians, genealogists. Many of these records have been already digitized and are available on Ancestry.com. These include some of our records relating to state hospitals, the state prison system, some of our military records, as well as some records relating to the Spanish archives. However, just to summarize and recap what I've been saying, some of the important things to remember, we might have records relating to your ancestors if they were in the state of California, and especially if they had some connection to state government. So maybe they were a patient in the state hospital, they were a soldier in the National Guard, maybe they were a politician, maybe they were employed in a profession that the state required there to be a licensing for, that kind of thing. And the very best thing you can do would be to send an email to our dedicated staff who would be willing to help describe what records we have and help you walk through the process of finding out whether we have any information that would help you in the journey about learning your family's history. And that email address again is archivesweb@sos.ca.gov. archivesweb@sos.ca.gov. And I really want to thank you again for your attention, and I really hope that you find some treasures in your family history. Goodbye, folks.